So Jim, you've cornered me in a back hallway at a convention center.
Exactly.
With something for your video series?
That's right. And you know, you've had great experiences throughout your career, and I just want to just really encapsulate your, you know, what did you learn from your biggest failure?
Yeah. Well, you know, as someone who tries a lot of things, I fail a lot. It's hard to quantify which was my biggest failure because there's so many failures along the way, but probably the biggest and most difficult one for me was after I started my first company. My first company was super successful, went public, etc. So I figured I could just do it over and over again. It was an easy thing. I could grow things from nothing to something and do it routinely. And so when I started my second company, I had a lot of overconfidence. And so when that sort of hit the dot-com crash and I had to leave the company, and you know, I found a new CEO to replace me, etc. But it was a really, really hard struggle to think that my first company would be so successful, but I could totally blow it on my second company.
Right. Okay. Fair enough. What about your biggest success then? How did that, you know?
Well, I'd say the thing that set me up for doing what I've been able to do the rest of my life is my first company, which is still has had a lot of impact on the planet. So where we Map Info, I created that when I was 21 years old. It went public when I was 28, and we invented the concept. And that was many years ago. I did it right out of school, right out of Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute, where I started the company with 3 other co-founders, and we grew to a couple thousand, 1,500 people, a couple $100 million in revenues, and it became. But the big innovation there was you type an address into a computer and you see a street map. So we enabled street mapping on personal computers initially, and there were thousands of innovations that came out of that, and we mapped the world, with street addresses.
So a precursor to Google Maps, essentially.
Yeah, it was a precursor to Google Maps, precursor to MapQuest, and all those things. Yeah.
And what about your luckiest break?
Luckiest break, I'm still looking for it. No, I've had a couple of a good, I'm a venture capitalist these days, and so I backed a lot of good companies over the years, and when I see something that I think is really strong, I often, go all in. I go in pretty big into a company, or a portfolio approach, of course. But I've had a couple of really lucky breaks by backing companies that turned into like billion-dollar companies.
What was the biggest?
Well, the biggest company that I did on a private company perspective I was a seed investor in this company, Harmonix. They did extremely well. They created Guitar Hero and Rock Band. That was like a 70x gain. But more recently, we've backed a company called BitMEX that is looking like it's going to be more like 1,000 to 1 sort of game. So, like, we could, certainly create hundreds of millions from a very small initial investment.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thanks.